John, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
I had my mic muted. Yeah, one of the agents is having a bit of a difficult time with her computer to log in, so she's working on it. So Shannon might be a little bit late.
Okay.
Hey there, Shannon Milligan here, having a little bit of tech difficulties. Can you guys hear me?
You were echoing a little bit.
Was that a yes? John, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, listen guys, I had to come in through the app because I'm having some tech difficulties, so if I get kicked off because of some John will take over. Does that sound like a plan?
It sounds terrible.
Yeah, the reverb and distortion is terrible.
Oh, there's an echo?
Yes.
Yeah, it's very bad.
Well, everybody has to echo.
Is that any better?
Everyone is echoing.
Oh, you're not echoing.
John, is it possible? I think it might be on your end, John, if you turn off your speakers or turn them lower.
How's that?
I think someone else needs to speak so we can hear if we can still hear it out of your speakers.
Can you hear me?
Still an echo.
This is Elizabeth Monarch.
This is Shannon. Do I have the echo?
No, I think it's John. John, can you turn your speakers off completely or put on a headset?
We're still hearing echoes.
No, I'm not.
I had muted my mic for a second there, and you guys were still hearing echoes. How's it now?
Nah, this sounds good.
It sounds good on my end. I can hear myself on a playback, but if you guys can't hear it, I'm good to move forward. You good?
Great.
Great.
We
Right.
can hear you on the playback, Shannon.
Oh, so you do hear my echo?
Not anymore.
Yes.
Yeah, there's an echo.
All right, guys. Well, I can't get into the world. I've tried patching it like 5 different times, although now I think the echo might be gone.
Sounds good.
John, whenever someone is talking, there's a little bubble above your head, which implies that there is echo coming from your end.
right, guys, just hang with us for another minute so we can get the audio correct. John, can you try talking? Because I don't hear an echo now.
Sure, testing, 1, 2, 1, 2.
That sounds good to me. Dang, I just heard the echo again. Well, I'm going to get started, and if I get kicked off, somebody will have to take over. So guys, welcome to ICONversations. I am Shannon Milligan out of Richmond, Virginia. I am a ICON agent, and I love doing these conversations because I always walk away learning a ton. So today we have John from Michigan, Kirk from Arizona, and Elizabeth from Kentucky. Guys, I'm just going to start asking you some questions, and if you guys would keep it to about 2 minutes each, unless you really need to expand on something, that will allow us to get through some of these great questions. Does that sound like a plan, everyone?
Sounds good.
Yes.
Okay, well, let's get down to the fun stuff that I know lots of agents struggle with, and even I do a lot myself. Let's talk about your lead generation, what you're doing for your lead generation, and what your challenges and your successes are with that. So let's just start with Elizabeth. Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing for lead gen, what your challenges are, and what your successes have been?
Yes, Shannon, and I tell you again, it's an honor to be here today, and thank you so much. Elizabeth Monarch from Louisville, Kentucky. One of the main things that my team does for lead generation, we have a 39 touch campaign that we have set all of our past clients and our sphere of influence on. So in terms of the lead generation, we not only touch our clients via email twice a month, we also call them once a quarter, and we do 4 client appreciation parties. I will tell you the majority of our business comes from our past client and referral base. Each person on my team, we have learned to utilize and strategize their strengths and where they are best at lead generation. For example, for me personally, a lot of my lead generation over the last 18 years has just come from setting on a lot of boards. I'm very involved in the community, and I really, really mind my database. We've got a very good database that I keep in touch with everybody in the database. I oftentimes in Kentucky have a running joke that you have to die twice to get out of my database. So in terms of the lead generation per hour, we have a goal that we each make 100 contacts a week. And if that means that it takes us 3 hours to make 10 contacts, we take the 3 hours in the morning to do the lead generation. But we also incorporate open houses and KV Core.
So let me just do a follow-up question for that. Tell me a little bit about the kinds of events you're doing. And I know for myself, I struggle with this. So I'm going to ask this question because I know others in the audience probably have this issue too. For those that have the drunk monkey on their back about asking for referrals from your past clients, how do you do it? So tell us a little bit about your events and how you do it. And then we're going to go ask these questions of the gentleman.
Absolutely. I will tell you consistently for the last 6 years, we've done a minimum of 2 client events. This will be our first year that we actually do 4. The 3 consistent ones that we've always done over the last 6 years is we do a House of Boom event, which is like a bouncy house. It's, and we invite a lot of our clients that, not just clients with families, but that's an event we do in February. In April, around Earth Day, we actually do a Shred the Word event where we get a shredding company that donates their services. We get a food truck. I also have a local radio show I've been doing for 16 years. So we do our radio show live from that event. And then in October, we do fall pictures in the park. So we hire our photographer that takes our pictures for our properties. We go to a local park. We offer free pictures. Then we send them out. That way our clients can use them for Christmas. What we're also doing right now for for July and August, we're either going to do a Flying Axes barbecue where they've got an on-site truck that they will come and you can do the Flying Axe event, and or we're going to do a soccer event, which is a local team here at the Louisville Slugger Museum or Louisville Slugger Stadium.
That sounds great. And then how are you asking your clients? Are you just flat out saying, hey, who do you know that's looking to buy or sell, or do you have a specific way that you're asking?
You know what? A lot of times it's really specific to the person I'm talking to. If I know their family, like I've got a client right now that I'm getting ready to sell the 11th home to their family member. You know what? I mean, I see them when I talk to them. I'm always asking, you know, hey, how's your family doing? And I'm usually pretty specific to the ask. I know that saying a lot of people use, do you have a family member that's looking to buy or sell? I'm usually pretty specific in knowing what they're involved in their life. And I ask, hey, you know, how's this charity doing? Do you happen to know anybody that's in the charity that might be buying or selling? We do a lot of home buyer seminars also. So that's a great ask when we do our follow-up once a quarter.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Elizabeth. John, what about you? Let's talk about your challenges in lead gen, successes. What are you doing?
Basically, I'm working my sphere of influence. I'm fortunate to have a large sphere of influence, and I've been in real estate for 3 years. So this quarter, I've pretty much done what I did last year in business. I've been really busy just working the sphere of influence, working my social media. I don't always advertise, hey, who's looking to buy or sell, but I'll put postings up there for open house coming up or a deal closing or, you know, home that just got listed on the market. I try to market without marketing just to kind of let people know on my social media, because I have a large presence, that, you know, I'm in real estate and I want to try to stay at top of mind, but I try not to overdo the, you know, who's buying or selling type, because everybody, you know, knows a realtor out there. And, you know, the best thing for me has been social media and just, you know, reaching out to my sphere of influence. I had tried Zillow, but for buyers leads, but that turned to be a zero-sum gain. And it was a lot of wasted time. So I've been focusing on sponsoring community events and being more present on the streets and, you know, talking to people and pressing the flesh.
That's great. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing social media wise, since you mentioned that, and then we're going to go to Kirk and ask him some of these questions. But what does that look like, what you're doing with social media that is making you successful for lead gen?
I'm basically listing properties that, you know, I have open houses for, new on the market. I try to, you know, engage the people that are commenting or are tagging people on those posts. So if somebody tags a friend of theirs on there, I try to reach out to that friend and say, hey, you were tagged on this post, and I'm assuming you're looking for a house and your friend thought this would be a good fit for you. If you'd like to schedule a private appointment, please let me know, or I have an open house coming up this day. Or, you know, if you have an agent, have them schedule it through the MLS. I try to engage the people that are engaging with my posts. That's the most important thing. You know, you've heard it 100 times in this industry, success is on the follow-up.
Absolutely. You know, I'm a big proponent of having leads, or getting leads are easy. I mean, anybody can go pay for leads, but it's absolutely about the follow-up and what you're going to do with it. And that's one of the reasons that I personally stopped paying for leads this year. And that's for another time. But thank you for sharing that. What about you, Kirk? What are you doing lead generation wise? What are your successes and what are some of your challenges?
Thanks, Shannon. First of all, I want to echo Elizabeth's statements. Truly an honor to be speaking in front of all of you. It's a humbling experience. Very grateful for the opportunity. As far as lead generation, I am 100% referral. First and foremost, the key is to make sure you're using some kind of a CRM system with automatic drip campaigns. As you do more and more transactions in your real estate career, you're going to continue to build a database, and it's really hard to keep on top of all of those without some type of automatic campaign. Our campaign touches people monthly with emails, and then also different times throughout the year with text messages. On top of that, we also reach out to our clients individually, whether it's call, email, or text message, whatever is the best way to contact that particular client. And a lot of times it's just checking in and having a conversation of, you know what their favorite sports team is, how are they doing, different things like that, because ultimately that always leads into, oh, by the way, I know my neighbor is looking to sell, I'm gonna give him your number. So just caring about them and reaching out to them, not necessarily asking for the business, it will turn into them offering the business for you. So we do that. Secondly, we partner with one lender here in town that I probably do 85% of my buyers use, and I demand then that they reciprocate. So if I'm going to give them $15 million or $20 million of business a year in leads, I demand that they reciprocate that business back. And so I have a great relationship with my lender. They give us a deal or two a month and we reciprocate. So a lot of our leads come from there as well. And then the social media, of course, like John, I have a pretty big social media presence on Instagram and Facebook. And, I can barely know how to make a post, to be honest with you. So I hire somebody to do that for me, and it's the best money I spend every month. I have a professional that does it, and we generate, I don't know, 4 or 5 deals a year, probably just from Instagram or Facebook, and it costs me really nothing other than just what I'm paying her on a monthly basis. And quite honestly, it really raises our level of professionalism and the perception in the Valley. So that's kind of what we're doing.
Referral only. When you started out, because we have a lot of new agents out there, how did you start out referral only? Like, you only sold 2 houses, right? How did you get your first, how did you get your first 10 clients?
Well, I guess one other thing that I should add that will tie this in with lead generation is open houses. So my team is just myself, and I have one buyer's agent, and he is required to do a minimum of 3 open houses a week. And a lot of people will groan about that, but I'm telling you, it works. Open houses work, whether it's my listings, obviously those are first and foremost the ones he sits, but also, if we don't have a listing that makes sense, because I have several $3 and $4 million listings, and open houses on those are fairly quiet. So he'll sit something else. And he probably has right now in his pipeline $3 million of business coming from open houses that are legitimate buyers. So they work. It's not a secret. So that's how I started. Is I looked at it as a mobile office. I sat 4 to 5 open houses a week every week, and I just started to generate my business that way. And then I had a pretty good sphere of people that I knew here in Scottsdale, and I continuously hit them up, let them know what I was doing. And I went to them and I said, listen, I know you know 10 realtors, but you know me, you know my past successes. Just give me a shot. I promise you I will show you
I'm
what
in
job
the
I'm going to
auditorium,
do.
but I don't see you guys.
Hey guys, please
So-
mute if you're not speaking.
So that's really how I started, was open houses and just kind of working the people that I knew, because the fact of the matter is all of our friends, they do know 4 or 5 realtors. So you have to stand out and offer something that those other people do, contact those people more often, show value to them. But really my first 3 or 4 deals came from 2 from open houses and 2 from just the people that I knew and asked for a chance with.
That's great. So I want to talk a little bit about how you do stand out. Let's go to Elizabeth, and then we will go to John, and then back to Kirk. But, it is important because everybody does know an agent. And I would venture to say people probably know more than that, 7 to 10. So, Elizabeth, what are you guys doing to stand out? Because I will tell you, when you go on those listing appointments and everybody does know an agent, what is your value proposition? How are you justifying your paycheck, basically? And how do you win over that client when they do know so many agents? Elizabeth, do you have some thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the reason that we tend to be a very heavy listing, I mean, I've always been a heavy listing agent. It is really our marketing plan. We've got a graph. We've also got our marketing plan is in writing. I feel like we've got a superb listing presentation. I used to, when I got in the business, I was 22 years old. And I used to think when I got gray hair, it'd be a lot easier. And I will tell you, over the years, the experience does come into play. Oftentimes, what I battle more now than I did in the beginning, because in the beginning, it was just me, myself, and I. And oftentimes, I think a lot of making yourself stand out is you've got to ask great questions before you go into that appointment. If I know that I'm going to go up against an agent, I'm asking that potential seller beforehand, who are you meeting with? What are your most concerns? Have you worked with an agent in the past? And then that way I can really prepare myself before I walk into that listing presentation. I'm also going to know a little bit about the agents that I'm going up against. Even though I'm on the professional standards. I'm real big into our state association here in Kentucky. I think that there's enough business for all of us. I've always thought in abundance, but I think going in and being prepared, and what I believe makes us stand out is not just our experience, but we do a lot of transactions. We deal with multiple offers. We're selling a lot of homes. So a lot of times it's that experience of, what do you do when the appraisal comes in low? The listing agent needs to be able to know how to do that. So oftentimes with our marketing, because I feel like we do more than just the average agent and more than just putting a sign in the yard. And the market's been so great in Louisville, Kentucky over the last 3 years that a lot of times I'm still doing those habits and reaching out to agents that have sold in that neighborhood on all of our listings. I'm doing those habits that I created when the market was not that great, and you couldn't find a buyer to save your life. So I have maintained those type of habits, just knowing that when the market does shift, but also I do think that those habits separate my team from everyone else. So that's a little bit of what I believe makes us stand out, because we have about 4,200 agents in the Louisville and metro area.
So let's get a little specific, Elizabeth. What specifically makes you stand out? So I think you mentioned you have a radio show. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I know that makes you stand out.
Absolutely. I mean, it's every week. It's an hour every Saturday. I have guests on the show. I mean, I've been doing it for 16 years, so that's a lot of talking. I think in addition to the radio show, we've got a pretty strategic social media platform. And also we do a lot of drone videos. So that in itself separates us from a lot of agents. And I think we're able to just maintain a lot of deals at one time. So with that, I do have staff and I've got other agents. So it really does enable us to give that one-on-one customer service to our clients.
One last question for you, Elizabeth, before I move on to John, asking him about this. But how does one get a radio show? And guys, for those of you listening, I'm asking these questions because I know there's going to be a few of you out there like, well, how do I do that? I will say anybody can do a podcast right now. So if you can't get a radio show like Elizabeth, look into podcasting. But Elizabeth, how did that come about?
I got approached by the station. I also own a real estate auction company. So that's one area that does make us stand out because we sell a lot of just variety of different types of properties, car washes, farms, just very unique properties. And they approached me wanting to expand their local program. And I did it for the first year. And then as the show continued, I got sponsors. So basically the entire show is paid for. And the radio station just saw me. Like I said, I'm very involved in my association, and I'm involved in the community with a lot of charity auctions. So that I just got approached just with the base of the knowledge. Would I be interested in hosting one?
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Let's go to John. John, what are you guys doing to stand out? Same question. How are you winning the deals over other people?
Basically, the value proposition we bring to the table is our experience. Myself personally, I've been around in the area here for 45 years. And I've been involved in business since I was 16 years old. So I've negotiated, the first use of commercial music videos in the U.S. I was in the military during the Kosovo War. I was a translator, so I helped translate for the U.S. General the disarmament agreement. So, and I sell about 60 homes a year myself, from residential to commercial on top of that. And most of my team comes from a professional background. One of my agents, Sherry Johnson, she's got 17 years of corporate experience. And one of my other new agents, Gazman Dervisha, he owned a couple of Tim Hortons. My goal is to make every customer feel that they're my only customer. And one of the biggest things that I really try to, impress upon them is my years of experience in the business world and negotiating. I do my homework. I don't do the standard listing presentations where some of the other agents do. I kind of just walk in there myself with the comps in the neighborhood. And one of the most important things that I try to impress on my clients is that pricing is the most important thing. I'm going to do my job, which is to market the house to prospective buyers that are currently actively looking on the market. And the reason pricing is so important, because if you price it below value, you create instant value on the property, and you may pull buyers out that aren't currently actively looking, but because you're presenting such a value in the price that you're listing it at, that it gets them into the marketplace and gets them to take a look at your property. One of the most important things that I impress upon the listing presentation is my marketing background. Aside from my negotiation skills, my marketing background is what I think is important to the sellers. At the end of the day, it's not about you and who you are. It's what can you do for them and their house and their family and their plans. And the thing that I think I make them feel comfortable with is that they're comfortable that I have the skill set and the knowledge to get the transaction done, from pricing strategy to dealing with the negotiations to closing. So I guess my biggest attribute and selling point that I bring to the table is my experience, and I think I make them feel comfortable that I can handle their biggest asset in a smooth, seamless transaction.
Yes, and I truly believe, we've had a good market now for a good, 7 to 10 years. I truly believe that marketing will never be as important as it is right now when we enter into a shifting market. Whether we're entering into that now or a year from now, I believe that marketing is going to be a way to stand out. So I love that that's one of the ways that you stand out. What about you, Kirk? How do you stand out? How do you win over the business over, say, a competitor? So if you were sitting there at a listing appointment with me and I was a seller, why should I pick you over John or Elizabeth?
That's a good question, Shannon. I do want to answer. I saw that Paul McMahon from Seattle had typed a question in here in response to what I was talking about before in regards to listings or open houses. He says, it's all good if you have listings or opens, but what would you encourage someone that is new or lacking these listings or open houses? And that's a great question. So when I started, I didn't have any. So all I did is I searched the MLS for properties from someone that was in my brokerage. When I initially started, I was in a brokerage that had, I don't know, maybe 1,000 people in it. I searched through listings and I just called them up and said, can I sit your house open? I would love to sit it for you. And I just earned a reputation that I did a good job and made sure it was locked up, lights off, all that stuff. So even if you don't have listings yourself, you can find open houses to sit because there's other agents with multiple listings. They can't sit them all open at the same time. And if you prove value to them and show you'll do a good job, they'll welcome you to sit those open houses. So there's always going to be opportunities. So Shannon, to answer your question, when I go into a listing appointment, and I don't mean this to sound arrogantly, but what sells it is me. I'm very confident. I know the comparables. I have a track record of setting records for highest dollars per square foot that I can show those clients. And honestly, I can relate to people. I've always had a knack of understanding how that person wants to be sold to, whether it's been in real estate or in my corporate world. And I sell to them that way. I just have a good way of reading people. And so that's my best skill set. But I also have a track record that I can show in the areas that I really farm. The properties that I've sold, we've set records for dollar per square foot. And that's just historical fact. So that obviously gives me a leg up. My properties generally sell quicker than the average days on market. So I use the statistics that I've had as a listing agent. And then also, when you say, what makes me stand out or makes me different or my team is me and one buyer's agent. So I sell to them like, listen, when you hire me, you get me or you get my assistant. You don't get passed down the line 4 or 5 people to a big team, because a lot of the people that I compete against in the luxury market have 6, 8 people on their teams. And so sometimes that seller is going to be talking to 2 or 3 different people. But with me, you get me. You get my expertise, my grinding, my negotiating. You're going to get me 24/7. The other thing that we do is we're available. If you call, email, or text, we're going to get right back to you. And I know that sounds like super basic, but it is amazing how many realtors do not do that. I'll reach out to a realtor with an offer, and I don't hear from them for a day. And I reach out to them and say, did you receive the offer? Oh yeah, I just saw that in my email. And that's just mind-blowing to me. People, especially in today's society, they want instant feedback. They want instant communication. And I know that that's not always possible to reply right away. But one of my big things with myself or Logan, my buyer's agent, is you get back to that person right away, even if you don't have an answer. Like, hey, Shannon, I'm on it. We'll get back to you as soon as I know. Because people just want to know that you're working for them. So for all new agents, that's very basic and simple, but get back to people and communicate as soon as possible.
Well, that's a great tip. And I will say it's amazing how many agents don't answer their phone. So on that subject, it's connected. Let's talk a little bit about time blocking, because I will share with you one thing that I was really poor at is I taught people to treat me very poorly, because I was answering my phone at 6 in the morning. I was answering my phone at 11 at night, and I had no life. There is a way to still communicate well and still have a little bit of balance in your life. So Elizabeth, can you tell us a little bit about, do you time block? What does your day look like? That sort of thing, because I know a lot of agents out there are hustlers, which is awesome. They just want to grind it out. And that can take its toll if you do not set some parameters in the beginning. So can you talk a little bit about that, setting yourself up for success with time blocking or how you schedule your day?
Absolutely. And I tell you, real quick, before I answer that, there was something as the conversation on that last question about what sets each of us apart. And I just want for those agents out there that may not have the 5-10 years of experience, I will tell you, having enthusiasm is huge. I've noticed over the years that a lot of times that really will help you when you go into a listing appointment and you're excited about being there and excited about helping the people in front of you. Also, if you don't have the experience, getting your GRI designation and other designations will give you that confidence too. So I just wanted to throw that out there to those folks that may not have 15 years of experience. In terms of time blocking, absolutely. For the first 12 years of my career, I built it. I grinded it every day, day in and day out. Made a lot of sacrifices that now I really, when I'm coaching people, I tell them that you don't have to. I believe that you can have harmony in the real estate business. In terms of time blocking, we live and die off our calendar. So we communicate through our Google Calendar. And that is really how my team members, how my listing manager, my closing coordinator, my husband, my children, everything is really on our Google Calendar. And the reason what I do every year is I sit down, I put our vacations, I put my son's tennis matches, I do all of that. I put all of that stuff on my calendar. And I have learned over the years that you have to make that a priority because it's going to make you a better agent and you're going to sell more, you're going to be happier. And in terms of time blocking, absolutely. I am very rigid when it comes to the lead generation part. Just over the years, I started that in the beginning. And you know, in my mind, I'm a numbers person. That's my background. I know how many calls I need to make. I've always, when I was younger, I set a rule out that if I didn't have one new piece of business by a certain day, I would pick up the phone and start calling. And I've been blessed that, you know, I still have to make those calls, but it's a little bit easier because the calls do come in and it is about helping people because I get a lot of calls where my clients, they're not ready to buy or sell now, but they're fighting the PVA or they're wanting to put a new kitchen in and, you know, they're just utilizing me as a resource. So time blocking is very vital in this business. And I believe that if you don't have some type of system to time block, I really strongly encourage that you get it now because that's going to help you sell more and your state of mind is going to be in a lot better place too.
Yeah, I agree. I got to tell you, one time I was sitting at the dinner table and I just up and left with my fork on the plate and didn't tell anybody where I was going. You can get so busy making a living that you don't have a life. And so I think it's really important that some of the newer agents hear some of this. John, what are you doing in your day to time block? What does your typical day look like?
My typical day is I start out in the morning with my transaction coordinator to discuss any pending deals that are currently going to make sure everything is moving in the right direction. I go through all my emails. I follow up with my team members to come out with any deals that they have going on. And then I basically start up with my follow-up phone calls with my existing clientele base. And I really don't do much prospecting. I did buy a Mojo dialer for my team members, so I encourage them, you know, if I was to give a new agent some advice, you know, coming up with a schedule is the most important thing. And, you know, the first thing I would recommend is 2 hours on lead generation, calling FSBOs and for sale by owners. Then the next 2 hours should be follow up. And then next 2 hours should be administrative work. And then the afternoon should be left for listing presentations and showings. And if you don't have any of those in your pipeline, then back to lead gen.
Thank you. No, absolutely. Those are good tips. What about you, Kirk? What is your time blocking? What does your day look like? Are you one of these people that gets up at 4 in the morning and you meditate and, you know, exercise? And what does it look like?
Well, yeah, I do. I get up at 4:30 or 5 every morning. My first thing is I'm a big believer in having an algorithm to start your day. If you do the same thing every day, it puts you in the right mindset. So mine, I get up, I know this sounds stupid, but I drink about 30 ounces of water. It's the first thing I do. And then I head straight to the gym. I work out for about an hour. I get home and I make breakfast and I sit at my computer from, let's say, 6:30 to 8 o'clock, because I'm getting very few phone calls and emails and text messages that early. And I look through all the new listings every morning, because I have buyers looking in certain pockets, and our market here is very competitive. And early bird gets the worm, because there's some houses in certain pockets that will sell in a day or two. So if I have an investor client or a client that's looking in a certain area, I want to see it before anybody else. So I'm looking through the new listings of the certain pockets, plus any areas that we have buyers or investors looking for. So that's the first thing I do every day. That generally takes me till about 8 o'clock, 8:30, depending. And then obviously follow-up emails, going through transactional paperwork and all those kind of things, just to make sure that everything's buttoned up and dialed in. And then it really depends on what's going on. I do block it off on my calendar, but each week's a little different. I have several luxury listings that require in-person showings. So depending on if those are scheduled, or if we're working with buyers, or if I've got meetings with obviously investor clients. So all that stuff is time blocked. So during the day, it can be a little bit different. But I am a huge believer. Everything goes on the calendar. You do not deviate from that unless there's an emergency, whether that is, your coffee or lunch or whatever meetings it might be to generate business, or that's, calling, texting, emailing clients for your lead gen, or that is, searching new listings or whatever the fact may be. You do not deviate from that. In fact, my assistant gets pretty frustrated with me, because he can call or text me, and if I'm time blocked, I don't respond to him. And he knows, he's like, okay, well, he's locked in on what he's doing. And then I'll get back to him right away, obviously. So you have to be diligent about it, because I always tell, when young agents ask me, what's the best and worst thing about being a real estate agent? Well, there's two things. The best thing is you have a very flexible schedule. The worst thing is you're never off.
Absolutely.
I say that tongue in cheek, because in our market, if there is a property that comes on and it hits Sunday morning, there's a good chance it's selling that day. And if you want to make a commission and provide a good service to your client, your day just changed, and I'm getting out there and showing it to them. So there's that. And there's also, as young agents, the autonomy that you have as a real estate agent. Like, if you don't go out and grind, the phone's not just going to ring. And a lot of agents think, oh, I got my license, I'm going to start making money. So it's hard. You have to get in the mindset of grinding every day, especially when you start, because you're competing against thousands and thousands of agents. And if you're not doing it, somebody else is going to be. So having the discipline to time block, stick to your calendar, don't get distracted, and grind every day. That's tough. That's tough for some people. So you've got to create that algorithm, that habit every single day to do the same thing. And pretty soon it just becomes habit.
Absolutely. And guys, you might be wondering why I'm saying, what's your day look like? Because success leaves clues. And I find the most successful people, they have their schedule under control. That is something I've been successful despite myself, and it's going to come up and bite me in the butt. So I'm working on getting my daily habits down, and I love hearing about the daily habits. Now let's go back to Elizabeth. You guys have talked about your teams and everything. How are you guys? What does your team look like? What's the structure? How many people are on it, and all of that good stuff? Elizabeth, can you start?
Yes, I've got 4 agents. That includes myself. I've also got a listing/office manager who is a full-time employee, and then I've got a contract to close, which that position I'm leading with revenue, so that's paid on a per transaction basis. In the past, I've had all the way up to 12 people, 2 full-time, 4 part-time, and I tell you, I have failed forward, as I like to say, to the point where I was out of production for 2 years. So my team was still in production. So I learned a lot by being up in the clouds overlooking my team. And now I'm back in the production side and have been for the past year on the listing side. But I'm always looking for talent, building a bench. And, I tell you, I feel like having a team doesn't necessarily always mean that you're going to make more money. There is just each team member that is with me is on the team for a specific reason, and we all bring our strengths to the team, and we help each other be able to balance and have that harmony in our life.
Awesome. What about you, John? What does your team look like?
I basically have a transaction coordinator, and including myself, there's 4 agents. Just started a team not too long ago with 1 agent, and I've added 2 new agents. Basically, it's just the 4 of us and the transaction coordinator. I'm working on getting an assistant to help me out, but that's been a very tough find, and it's a lot to learn. The training is the biggest thing that I try to provide for my younger agents, to make sure that, even though they have the corporate background, I want to make sure they understand the real estate transactions from A to Z. So I have a small team, but they're very eager to learn, and I'm really happy the way we're moving forward with them.
Hey guys, if you're not speaking, please mute. So, John, how many transactions is your team doing a year?
I personally do over 60 transactions, and the rest of the team, like I said, they're fairly new. My agent that's been with me on my team for about 5 months, she's done about 10 deals, and the newer agent has done 3. He's only been on for about 2 months. He's done 3 deals, buyer side deals. And the newest agent, I'm actually going on take some photos with him and teach him how to deal with the city. It's a commercial listing, so one of the first things that I do with commercial listings, I try to teach my agents as well, is you go talk to the city planning director and find out what their plans are for that area where the property's located, and introduce ourselves to them, and also introduce that the property is going on the market. So, having a team has slowed me down a little bit, but I hope that, I'm planting a seed that will bear fruit for many years to come. And I try to treat my team members the way I want to be treated. I've been part of some very large teams here in Detroit when I first started my career, and there's things that rub me the wrong way about a team, and those are things that I've implemented with my structure and how I treat team members. For example, I give them the option, hey, if you want to put up a sign, John Gochi and Associates, it's free to you because I've already made them. However, if you want to put out your face and your name, you're more than welcome to do that. I'll split the cost of the purchase for the signs with you. But, obviously it's got to have the team logo on there. So I try to, teach them how to be strong agents, but also, I want to generate some name notoriety with them, because, they need that as well, just for their own, I think, self-esteem, because, it makes them a little prouder when their face and name are on the sign, and it's not always about John. So I try to be all inclusive, and try to give them all the tools and make them feel like they're truly working for themselves. And I'm just here as a support mechanism to help them succeed.
Thank you for that. Guys, if you're not talking, please mute. Kirk, I'm going to come to you in a minute. Elizabeth, just real quick, how many transactions are you guys doing a year?
We do approximately 125 to 150, and I will tell you, Shannon, when I started the idea of starting a team, I had so much business coming in that I just couldn't maintain it, and I had internet leads and sign calls that I just wasn't even addressing. I was just trying to maintain my past client referrals. So that was when I said, you know what, I need help. I think I did 73 transactions by myself with no help. That's when I hired my part-time assistant, That was years ago. Then I went to a full-time assistant. The mistake I did make personally is I should have hired another assistant, and then leveraged them to the max, and then hired on a first buyer's agent. So I've made a few mistakes on that, because I'm a firm believer that you should lead with revenue. So oftentimes the reason I choose to maintain a team is because I'm trying to leverage my time. I've got a goal to have so many recruiting appointments a week, and I also run the auction company. So I think for each person that's looking to possibly grow, oftentimes you got to leverage your abilities first, and then look to see, what are you going to do? Do you need more time with your family, or do you want to grow a different side of the business? So but we do, I mean, our goal this year, we're on track to do about 128 transactions.
That's awesome. Kirk, what about you? What's your team look like? Who's it consist of?
Mine is just myself, and then I have one buyer's agent underneath me. He helps me out with a lot of my little day-to-day tasks as well. We're on pace this year. We'll do about 65 transactions between the two of us, which is really right where I want to be. Our goal this year was, we did 63 transactions last year, was to do the same number of transactions, but just up the volume, up the average purchase price. So right now through June, we will have closed about 16.5 million through June in volume, and on track for 35-ish million probably with what we have in the pipe for July already. And that's obviously, we handle everything. I do not have a transaction coordinator because I'm very OCD and want things done in an exact way. But I have considered hiring just an assistant. That's all they do is whatever I need them to do. They do all the paperwork for Logan and myself, and they would be licensed, so they could sit open houses and that kind of thing as well. But we want to keep it very small. I'm not interested in doing 100 to 150 transactions a year, just because I do want to have a work-life balance. So 60 to 70 transactions with two really good agents it is very manageable, especially if I bring on someone. And then we'll just continue to up the price point, to get over that $40 million mark, which will be our goal in 2020. But so yeah, 62 transactions for probably 35 million.
What is your average price point there?
Well, the average in Maricopa County is 275,000. We're trending more in the 525 to 550 range overall for each transaction, whether it's buy or sell. Now I do have I have a buyer right now that I'm working with. That's a $3 million buyer that will probably close in July or August, and I also have two really high listings at 3 and 4 million. So if those close, of course, the number gets skewed a little bit more. But taking those three really big deals out, we're in the 525 range for this year. Last year we finished at about 470, and so this year our goal was over 500.
That's awesome. Guys, the reason I bring this up is I call it your Woody Woofy, and that comes from my husband. What do you want for you? Your Woody Woofy. You might want to sell 300 homes, and high five you. That's great. And you may want to sell 30 homes, and that's great too. What is your life by design? And I think, we're taking a little bit of everything here, because Elizabeth is selling over 125 homes, and that's fantastic. Myself, our goal is always 50, and it's just myself and a buyer agent, and that's exactly how I like it. Now, the mistake I might have made looking back, I probably should have hired a licensed assistant first, and I probably could have done those deals on my own, with the licensed assistant being a showing assistant and doing the paperwork and all that stuff that I'm bad at. But you fail forward, as Elizabeth said earlier, and you figure out what works for you. So just there's no magical way to have success. So take a little bit of what you want here and get rid of what you don't. That's what my yoga teacher likes to say. And just apply what's going to work for you and what you want your Woody Woofy. All right, guys, we only have about 8 minutes left, and I apologize. I cannot see the questions. So I'm going to ask Kirk in just a moment. We're going to answer one more question that I have, and then I'm going to ask Kirk to see if there's any questions in there. So Kirk, while I start with Elizabeth and John, will you kindly see if there's any questions that need addressed in the last 5 minutes? And in the next 3 minutes, I'm going to ask you guys, I've got so many great questions I want to ask, but right now, I find the most successful people exercise their mind along with their body. So we already talked a little bit about like Kurt getting up and exercising. What are you all reading? What is something that you can recommend to everybody out there to exercise their mind? Elizabeth, do you read? What do you fill your mind with? And if you don't read, maybe there's a podcast or something that helps you with your mindset?
Absolutely. I've got some great books that I always highly recommend. And I tell you, The Energy Bus is one of them. I think that that's a great book. It really does get you focused and get you back on track. Also, I was going to pull up my library. Grit is a great book. I always, this past year, I had my team read 5 Languages of Love. And you may be saying, why that book? I believe it is all about relationships. And I have learned that if relationships are great in the family and at home, then the relationships are going to grow at work. Also, Great Leaders Ask Great Questions is an excellent book. I learned early on, I'm good at sales, but my management skills needed a lot of work. So I read a lot of books and really focused with the help of my husband on the management side. So Great Leaders Ask Great Questions is an excellent book. Also Chess, Not Checkers. I've had to learn over the years that you got to learn how to play chess. That's part of just in sales and in recruiting and in real estate. The 5-second rule is also a great book. And The Defining Decade is another book that I had my sons read. If you've got children that are in your 20s, it's a great book. I also recommend. So I read a lot.
And you can tell because you're very successful. And so I love that. John, real quick, name a book or two that you might recommend, and then I'm going to ask Kurt the same thing, and then we're going to go to any questions.
Honestly, I don't really read too many the success books. I've done that in my 30s and 20s. But what I've been doing lately that's helped me with my real estate career is I learned how to use SkySlow properly. I learned how to use KV Core, and I watch videos on and read white papers and articles on how to, properly market on social media. And I also have signed up to be one of the first agents with Verbella online virtual co-working space. So I've been I spend all my free time, if I have any, on learning how to better use the tools of the trade and to utilize my marketing and basically things that are going to give me instant success. I understand, a lot of these, self-help books, and, there's, I guess the best thing for you to do is find what it is you're lacking, what it is you need. If you have bad people skills, get a couple of books on how to win and influence people. Getting somebody to do something they don't want to do is one of the hardest things to do. So there's a lot of books out there that you can find that to help you out. But personally, for me, I'm engulfed in learning the tools of the trade and better understanding them and utilizing them. And also, the social media platform is so powerful that I focus all my free time in attending seminars and webinars and how to better use Instagram. I'm still a novice at it, even though I'm a lot more advanced than most people out there. So basically learning the tools that I use every day and utilizing those better. That's my advice.
Thank you, John. Hey, Kurt, we're not going to have time to go over questions. I'll address that here in a minute. But Kurt, can you name a book or two in the next minute, and then I'll wrap up here over the next 2 minutes?
Yes, for sure. If any of you are only going to read one book next year, I'm telling you, read Tools of Titans from Tim Ferriss. And it's an interesting spin on a book because if you're not familiar with who Tim Ferriss is, he's one of the largest podcasters in the world. And what he does is he interviews successful entrepreneurs and athletes and army people from all around the world. And he basically, this book is excerpts from those interviews, and the nuggets and information you will pick up is so valuable. What Warren Buffett invests in and do the same thing because he's super successful. And too many times people try to reinvent the entire wheel. Do something that someone else is doing and doing it better. So I'm telling you, take the time and read Tools of Titans. You will be grateful you did.
Thank you so much. I'm definitely going to download that. I don't have time to traditionally read, but I listen to a lot of books on tape now. So I'm always looking for suggestions. And guys, if I could add one, for the 5th time, I am listening to Secrets of a Millionaire Mind. It's not just about money. There's a lot of great mindset stuff in there. So we just have about 45 seconds left here. I would like to thank Elizabeth and John and Kirk for joining us. I don't know if you guys are game. You can just tell me real quick, yes or no, because we got to hang up. Brad's going to come kick us off here in a second. But since we didn't get any questions answered via this chat, if anybody has any questions on water cooler, on workplace, guys, go put it over on water cooler. You can tag one of us, the 4 of us, and I'm willing to answer any questions. You guys game if somebody tags you over on water cooler?
For sure.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to seeing many of you at the shareholders on Monday or Tuesday.
Have a great
Thanks
day.
for moderating, Shannon.
Have a good one, guys.
Thank you.